Hi, I'm Damon Bonser, CEO British Design Fund, and I'm joined today by Robert White. Rob, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Damon.
So, Rob, your business is the first deployment from BDF4, our fourth British Design Fund, with the business White Motorcycle Concepts. So we like to do these very short interviews just to give our investors and those interested in what we're up to here just a bit of an insight into the businesses that are being invested into and supported by us, and also kind of get to meet the founders. So look, do you want to kick off? Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to sort of before you started White Motorcycle Concepts?
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for that. So I'm Rob White, founder of White Motorcycle Concepts. And since leaving school, basically, I have been working in high performance engineering, motorsport based, really. So some of that stuff in the early years was in British Superbikes in the UK, and then moving over to work for a couple of really good niche companies in the UK, building sports prototypes for Le Mans with Aston Martin and Ferrari, doing some work out in Australia with the Ford and Holden V8 supercar teams, and then back over to the UK in recent years to help be a part of a niche team developing the latest green V6 engines for Formula One, and then moved over onto some EV niche projects before starting my own business. So about 20 years experience in high level motorsport across numerous areas, really.
So is it fair to say you're a converted petrolhead then? Right? So you're no longer a petrolhead. You're all about the electric vehicles now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue. That is where the love still lies. But um, yeah, it's amazing. In the lower categories of motorsport, there is a big link to combustion engines. You know, it's a big part of it, the noise, the vibration, and all the rest of it. But then when you move into more modern stuff, especially with the V6 era of F1 and the hybrid, and then you realize that everything is all about efficiency. And actually, you less focus on one particular technology, but whatever the best solution is to have competitive advantage over your rivals. And that's been interesting in the last 5 or 6 years of my career before starting my own company.
So would you tell us a little bit about where the idea came from, and also, for our audience, not all of them will know what White Motorcycle Concepts does as a business. So sort of, it'd be good to know, where was there a eureka moment? Where did you where did you come up with the idea, and then maybe like in layman's terms, what it is that you guys have done?
Yeah, no problem. So it's really difficult, actually. I have been asked this a few times where the eureka moment came from, and I don't think I know. What there is our patented IP. We've got a few bits and pieces, but our main piece that we're leveraging at the moment is efficiency of vehicle movement through aerodynamics, and that is based on a large elongated duct that runs from the center from the front to rear of a motorcycle, and that basically reduces aerodynamic drag. That is something that would be used in motorsport for speed or performance. So it can be used to fast channels of moving air can be used for downforce and other aspects of racing. And we're using it in our application, firstly on our high-speed demonstrator that was used for speed. So that was our very first prototype of the concept, the aero duct concept. And now in the real world application, our scalable business that we're working with now with the police and other responders, we're using the duct technology for efficiency of movement, which then in turn reduces CO2. So rather than going faster, we're choosing to meet a set speed but burning less fuel.
And it's sort of, our takeaway, and the thing that we liked about it is, you may not have set out to sort of solve this problem, but you've ended up solving a problem that's very important to first responders who are sort of under pressure to move their kind of motorcycles to pure electric, but the range lets them down. So sort of just kind of compared to what the options are out there at the moment, because fundamentally this first sort of beachhead market for you that your bikes are addressing is about extending the range capabilities of these first responder bikes, right? So can you give us an example of like what impact it has in terms of literally miles or kilometers that they can get out of each of these?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, we are reducing the CO2 on the standard bike. The standard Yamaha bike is the one that we convert into the police bike and use a load of our tech in it. And depending on the dry cycle, we can reduce the CO2 by about 40 to 50%, depending on what speed ranges the bike's been used in, which is huge. You know, when you talk about engineering development in the automotive sector, normally it is marginal gain. So manufacturers will be looking at improving things by 1 or 2 or 3%. You know, we're managing to take a huge chunk out of this. Then when we sort of discuss the application of that into our customers' environment, the police, I've got to be perfectly honest, the police or any other response vehicle that needs to be utilised at any point in the day or night are really struggling with the conversion to EV. The technology lends itself really well to a 50-mile commute to work or a 30-mile commute to work, 8 hours on charge, 30-mile commute home, 8 hours charging through the night, and that all works nicely. So if you if you have an unpredictable workload in the police, you basically need the utilisation. Your vehicles need to be available at any point in a 24-hour period. So our customers, they have an option to use hybrid cars. Full electric is a real challenge. Firstly, in the downtime through charging, and secondly, and perhaps now is overtaking, is the infrastructure investment to be able to fast charge vehicles, so they don't need duplicate vehicles for the same coverage.
Yeah, which is obviously incredibly expensive if they start going down that route.
Yeah, on the scooter, we've gone for a hybrid with detachable batteries, which can be charged on a 3-pin plug. So we use a really small, very, very efficient single-cylinder combustion engine. We add about 5 kilowatts of electric power, which has got detachable batteries, so the bike doesn't plug in stationary to charge. When it comes back, you remove 2 empty batteries and you replace them with 2 full batteries. You can make the change in batteries in 10 seconds, and then you can be back on the road immediately. The fuel tank for the bike allows a range of about 300 miles on combustion, on petrol. And then we get the aerodynamic benefit, which is basically a range extender, reduces CO2 or a range extender. And we can use that and that has significant benefit from about 40 miles an hour above. So yeah, it's quite an interesting tech. All the batteries can be charged off a 3-pin plug.
Yeah, great. Do you want to talk a little about who else is in the team?
Okay, yeah, I mean, so one of the biggest strengths that we have is my background. So my background is, you know, we're very lucky in the UK, especially in the central belt of the UK, you know, Motorsport Valley, that we've got Mercedes Formula One, we've got Aston Martin Formula One, lots of niche companies in the centre of the UK, which a large number of them I've worked for. So internally, there's myself and Ian Hurd, who's our financial director. Then we have some other sort of senior people working on the assembly of these vehicles. But where our strength is, and it always has been, is our network into industry. So we, at any one point when we're developing these vehicles, we're using sort of pioneering techniques in CFD, so computer fluid dynamics, which is where with computers we simulate the airflow over the motorcycle to optimize it. This is the method that's used in all levels of motorsport around the world, and we're using it on a police vehicle, which is really exciting. I don't think many vehicles for this sector have ever been developed in this way. Then we also use finite element analysis to ensure that the bike is mechanically strong enough to carry out the work that it needs to do. And all of those things are a part of our network, and we pull all of those specific skill sets together so that our end product is, you know, as good as it can possibly be.
And you are so your first bikes are now out and on the road, right? With Northants, is it?
Yeah. So it's been busy. The first 8 is always tricky. We're ironing out problems with our supply chain. We're managing our cash flow, which at the very start was pretty tight. We've managed to build our relationships with Yamaha, our OEM, to be able to supply with suppliers with vehicles, and also suppliers with additional technical information and services around the rollout of the first 8. So we've got really good relationship with those guys now. And then we've been managing our supply chain, looking at our BOM costs, looking at where we can force the costs of those down as the volumes grow. We finished the first 8. We managed to build 8 in 8 weeks, which wasn't too bad for the first 8. Those went out to the police early last week. I think it's all a bit of a blur at the moment.
Yeah, it was Tuesday.
Early last week. Yeah, Tuesday, and they've had a great response. So they're really happy with what we've created for them. I think it's probably the first time that an engineering company has ever made a bike specifically for the needs of the police. Often it's a standard bike which is converted with a few additional systems, so it fits them. Whereas what we've had is a bi-directional communication over about 2 or 3 years to develop a vehicle that specifically suits their needs. So they're really happy that they've got a bespoke piece of machinery which is at the forefront of innovation. So they're happy. We've got another 12 that Northants are purchasing, and then they are going to lease those out to other forces around the UK for trials, at which point then we will start to fill the order book for next year.
A great marketing partner then, as well as a customer.
It's quite interesting because we're using Northants are fully behind it, and we're hopefully going to use those guys as a framework to be able to sell into the rest of the UK police forces.
Yeah, and for the next 12 months, sort of, we've seen the numbers, but sort of rolling out across sort of the wider first responder market.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to do is we are trying to grow robustly and steadily so that we can ramp up with good foundations. So in my background, I've done a lot of niche vehicle manufacturing, and just holding the reins in the early days to make sure that the foundations are in place so we can scale up is really important at this stage. We've got 8 completed. There are some changes to the BOM that we need for the next 12. Then we've got our manufacturing technique and our production line to get into place in a new facility that we're hoping to move into before Christmas. We've got build slots of 100 bikes next year, so we're trying to produce 2 a week, and those will go out firstly as a priority into the UK police force. We've got a lot of interest from UK fire, paramedic. We've also had interest from Europe, emergency service fleets in Europe, Southern Ireland, and then we've got some further tech that's coming along for other applications. So at the minute we'll grow to 100 next year, and then we'll consider our options when we've moved through that phase.
Well, look, we are very excited to be along with you on this ride, pun intended there. Looking forward to it. Robert, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no problem at all.